So this is a bit of a different situation to what we were in 4 days ago.
Yeah, we were asked to leave Sabang because of fears over the coronavirus. All the yachts in the harbour were asked to leave, and we had to leave the next day. So we didn't have a choice to pick a weather window to head south, and we had to really head about 300 miles south to get to the next province in Indonesia, because we'd only been kicked out of that harbour and theoretically we were allowed into the next province down. But we ended up doing 300 miles in very light winds. Luckily they didn't send us out into a storm, but we had to use the most diesel we've ever used on a passage.
Yeah, a lot of motoring, and we were also pretty anxious because we've been out of touch really with what's going on over the last 4 days. So we only got a snippet of internet when we passed an island, and the little bits of news that we did get were just telling us that borders around us for the countries surrounding this area are all closing, and that boats who tried to stop anywhere on the way to here, instead of sailing direct, were moved on by the police in the night. So it's a pretty uncertain time as to where we're going to be allowed to go and what the reception will be when we actually get anywhere. In the last 4 years since leaving England, we have crossed 2 oceans and sailed over halfway around the world. Join us on board our 37-foot yacht Florence as we continue our voyage of discovery, exploring new oceans, countries and cultures. We spent the last 4 days sailing south, looking for somewhere isolated that we can stop.
So we're really happy to have found this spot here. Well, we found it's not in the pilot books. We just found it by looking at the satellite images, and it's a nice little bit of sand, shallow enough for us to anchor, close enough to the beach so we can get ashore and go for a walk. And it's a real relief to actually have the anchor down after those 4 days of sailing. Yeah. We were just so relieved to be anchored and stopped, and we've actually had a friendly reception here, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's this is actually I think about second or third anchorage that we tried, because although the satellite images are great for showing where reefs are and where you've got sandy beach, they don't show the depth. So we went into 1 or 2 places where it was 10 meters on the chart, but actually 50
in reality. Yeah. So we can't anchor in 50 meters of water, it's too deep. Yeah,
it's amazing to be somewhere like this where there aren't as many boats that travel here and there's not as much information. So it is a bit more remote and it's more fun. But when you're in a time like this where you actually could do with a little bit of certainty, it makes it particularly difficult.
Yeah, a bit. So we've been really anxious for a while. We're pretty safe really on the boat. We've got loads of food, loads of water, and we're self-isolating effectively because we live on the boat. So it's a really good place to be on the boat in this sort of situation, but when all the countries around you close their borders, there's nowhere you can go. If nowhere else lets us in, well, we can't really sail home to England. It's too far to go in one go. We'd have to stop somewhere for food and water, and if nowhere's going to let us in, it's a little bit of a worry where we can go next.
Especially when we're looking at crossing the Indian Ocean, and we will come to a point where it's cyclone season again.
Here we've got a 2-month visa, which they have not revoked, or not we've heard, they haven't revoked our visas yet.
We're in ignorant bliss if they...
Yeah, this anchorage has no internet, so they can't tell us if they revoke the visa, so we'll be safe, I guess. But assuming that just runs to the end of its 2 months, at the end of those 2 months, if no countries around us will accept us, I mean, what do? We can't get back to England.
It's strange talking to you about it now, because I guess theoretically when this video goes out it will be in the future and you've actually got a much better idea of what's going to happen to us than we have at the moment, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, the way our videos work, we're probably 2 months, this will be coming out 2 months after the actual time now, so...
Yeah, because we're planning on crossing the Indian Ocean. So.
Yeah, theoretically in 2 months we'll be crossing the Indian Ocean. We'll have no internet for a couple of months, so we're trying to build up the videos so you guys still have something to watch whilst we're out there sailing. So hopefully right now we are actually out sailing across the Indian Ocean. But who knows? Right, time to get positive. Make the most of where we are.
Part of the reason that we've cheered up is because we've still got fresh fruit for banana pancakes. It's impossible to be unhappy with banana pancakes.
Yummy lunch!
These dragon fruit that we've been able to get throughout Thailand and Indonesia are delicious. Check out the colour inside them.
Now if that's not healthy of that colour, nothing is.
That's going to be packed with vitamins.
Yes please. We've anchored next to this beautiful island with palm trees, turquoise water, beautiful beach. But on the way here, we sailed past the perfect desert island. And unfortunately, we couldn't anchor next to it because it's too reefy. But we decided that we're going to try and get to it in the dinghy. It's actually over there. Today, unfortunately, there is no wind whatsoever. Normally we try and sail the dinghy there, but it's just not going to happen today. And it's about a mile away, which is too far to row. So we're going to have to resort to petrol power and stick the little engine on the dinghy. This is a bit like that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean. The only difference being, I'm not wearing a dress. Gotta try and find our way in between the reefs and the breaking waves. How's this for a perfect desert island? It's a pretty island, it's not a very big island. It took about 2 minutes to walk all the way round. It's amazing what having Florence enables us to see. When I was a kid, I used to dream about going to a desert island. And here now, okay, as an adult, we can just come to a desert island like this. There is no one else here. It's out of a storybook, it really is.
It reminds me of Sandblast a little bit here. Just the desert islands, the patches of reef, and I guess the fact that there's no wind. And also one of the locals warned us about crocodiles off a couple of the islands. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
Baking hot though, isn't it? We really need to be in the shade.
Yeah, really need to be in the shade. As well as stopping being burnt. There are a few fishermen around, so it's probably not wise to be walking around in a bikini. Very religious around here.
Yeah, Muslim area, so need to cover up and be respectful.
I'm melting. They don't get many visitors to the Banyak Islands, and in fact the resorts are totally closed at the moment. But the main reason people come here is to this area of Indonesia is for surfing, and even on a flat, calm day like today, I can't see any swell, but there are still waves, fairly big waves, breaking on the reef around this island.
Yeah, we had to be pretty careful with the dinghy coming in, didn't we?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is totally normal of any paradise type island in the whole of Southeast Asia from what we've seen. Just above the tide line, you always get huge amounts of plastic washed up, mainly bottles, always flip-flops.
Always left.
Yeah, always, only one. Yeah, and just tons and tons of rubbish.
There's so much here, we could gather it all up, but I've no idea what we'd do with it. I mean, the locals would just burn it.
Well, the sad thing is that we can collect all of this, and then even if we take it in Florence to the next island, there is no way of disposing it. And that's the real thing with plastic, is that there is no ideal solution. These islands don't have any way of recycling. And burning, there is no landfill. Burning or in the sea is the only option. Sometimes you find useful things on the beach. These are the second pair of sunglasses that I picked up, which is really good because all of mine are broken. They're a little bit scratched, but they're good.
We spend a lot of time wandering along beaches and we're always on the lookout for a pretty shell. And this one is one of the top trumps of shells. This one's a Nautilus shell. And we've been looking for an intact one of these for, well, nearly 4 years. We found a couple of broken ones, but this one is almost perfect.
The Nautilus is a distant relative to the squid and the cuttlefish, but it swims by squirting water to propel itself backwards. And the reason that the Nautilus shell is so special is because it uses its shell to ascend and descend in the water by changing the volume and density of the water inside its many chambers of the shell, a bit like ballast tanks. The Nautilus live at about 1,000 feet, but they can dive down as far as 2,000 feet. And then when they die, the shell floats to the surface, and because it's so light, it normally gets thrown above the high tide line. So the best place to look for them is on the shore, above the high tide line, where they've been washed, and you just have to hope they've not been broken in the process. This one's perfect.
The waters around the island are crystal clear, and as we motored in here, we actually went over the top of a turtle about, I don't know, 8-9 meters down, and you could see it clear as anything on the reef. Just fantastic. It is so hot, I am just dripping. I definitely think it's time to go for a swim. We'll go and see what we can find.
We're just 84 miles north of the equator, and in these latitudes the sun is very strong. The 2004 tsunami destroyed a lot of the reef systems along this part of the coast, so most of the coral is dead, but there are loads of small reef fish. These porcupine fish are related to pufferfish, and like them they can inflate their bodies when provoked to make their spines stand out in defence.
Further from the shore, the reef is still dead, but there are quite a few larger parrotfish and nimrodfish. All too soon, it was time to leave this amazing desert island and head back to Florence for the night. Life on a deserted desert island means no internet connection, and at the moment the internet is the way we're getting our weather forecasts. So here we have to do something a little bit different. We're going to have to go old school and just look at the sky around us. Now that's not really a problem, because here this close to the equator most of the weather is driven by thunderstorms, and the big weather models find it really difficult to predict those thunderstorms anyway. So the best forecast we're actually going to get is looking at the sky around us to see what is coming towards us.
The only problem with islands like this is that they don't offer much shelter, so it's the middle of the night and this is the second time that we've been up to just keep an eye on a lightning storm that's coming through. It's nothing major, the most wind we've seen is about 25 knots, but that's enough of a difference for us to have to get up and shut all of the hatches and take the wind scoop down and just prepare the boat in case we do have to move. in the night. This sort of situation is always in the back of our mind when we come into an anchorage like this, so we always go to bed with the boat fairly well prepared to leave, and we always have an escape plan as well, just in case the weather does change, what we would do if it came up in the middle of the night.
Our escape plan usually entails retracing our GPS route on the chart plotter out to deep water. We would do this if the anchor started dragging or the waves became too big in the anchorage. Florence is very capable of weathering a storm at sea. Being near land is the dangerous bit.
We're making the most of the rain that fell last night by having a laundry day. When it rains, our dinghy turns into a twin tub washing machine. So we do the wash in the bow and the rinse in the stern.
Because our dinghy is in two pieces, it actually has two separate water containing compartments between the bow and the stern. Out on desert islands there is no laundrette, so we have to do our own.
So the rowing machine becomes our washing machine.
Along with the water in the dinghy for doing the laundry, we also caught a good week's worth of drinking water in the rain catcher last night. We were just down below video editing and we heard a knocking on the hull. And we come up on deck and there's this buoy, this black buoy, it's just knocking against the hull and it's drifted here, but it seems to be attached to the remains of a crocodile.
Yeah, we weren't sure what it was to start with, but that is definitely a croc.
Big son of lizard, you can see the claws on its... Well, yeah, you can see the claws there, look.
It really stinks.
It's been dead a while. I don't know if it swallowed the buoy, swallowed the fisherman that was attached to the buoy.
Well, that certainly answers the question about whether salties are just a rumour here. The dead croc put us off swimming here, and we decided it was a sign that we should be moving on. We could do with finding a sheltered anchorage where we can get some supplies and also a phone signal to get an update on the global situation. So tomorrow we'll set sail for the next island in this chain.
Next time we head south, but find that we're unwelcome everywhere we go. Being told to move on without wind means a lot of motoring, and with nowhere to stop for supplies, it is an anxious time.
Thank you to everybody who supports us to make these videos possible, especially to our star patrons:
Alan Becky,
Kate and Peter Adkins,
John Bowler,
Rob and Rima,
Samui Yarvanen,
Paul Stahlberg,
and our new star patrons, Eduardo and Tess Wanek.